I won't back down.
Hey, what is going on, everybody,
Let's
and
find out
welcome
what lies
to
at the
Fantasia. For
those
today,
who have
we're going to be
faded
jumping
away.
into another session of
I
Epic
will
7
press on
out
to the very
today. Got some more
Radiant
first
lies in
impressions
ruins.
for you guys.
I
So
will
this
not
time around, we're
rest
going to be
until
taking
I
a look at
uncover the truth.
Uncharted Pioneer Politis. That's going to be the newest iteration of Politis that's going to be released here. She actually looks really close to the original Fire Politis, but as you can see, she has some pretty cool tech, some nifty drones and stuff that's flying with her. As her story, we head back into the original world, original timeline, and she dives deep into the abyss. She actually meets the goddess Diche as well, so this is going to be an amalgamation of their storylines together, along with Kayron and his origin story as Kine, right? So that's going to be amazing to explore. So Uncharted Pioneer Politis here is actually going to be a 5-star Ice Elemental Ranger, and she does bolster a decent amount of attack actually, but a good amount of HP and a really good amount of speed. 120 speed is pretty solid. Now there is no awakenings into effectiveness or effect resistance, but she does have a team imprint for attack and a self imprint for effectiveness. So it kind of allows her to support the team, right, both offensively and for herself with some debuffs and such. Now the thing to note about her star sign is she does share the same star sign as ML Politis, who's also a ranger, just of the ML variety, but they're going to be the same speed, right? So in terms of opening, she's not going to be opener tier levels of speed, right? Like RNL and stuff, which is 131 base speed or whatever. Not quite as fast as that, but still a respectable stat line. You could potentially build her to like 300 plus speed if you really wanted to, but we'll talk about like sets and stuff as we move forward into the rest of her information here, especially when it comes to her skills. So starting off, we have her skill 2, which is a passive ability called Survivor's Mission. It says, at the start of battle, when in the front row, grants offense mission, and when in the back row, grants defense mission. When a mission is complete, dispels the mission and all debuffs from the caster, and activates Last Words of a Fallen Star. Last Words of a Fallen Star grants knowledge of the stars to all allies, and grants an extra turn to the caster. So this is huge because this is, I think, the first unit that is explicitly in their skills built to say, hey, do you want to go offensive or defensive with her? Right? So the offensive mission increases the attack of all allies by 10%, and when allies attack 10 times, the mission is complete, which means that she gets a full cleanse, she dispels everything, right, and then jumps up in combat readiness to take a turn, and then when she gets that extra turn, she gets to, do whatever she does in terms of debuff, supporting the team, damage, what have you, depending on your build, right? And then here's the defense mission, which is the same thing, but just more bulk-wise. You increase max health of all allies by 10%, and when all allies are attacked 10 times, the mission is completed. When she gets the completed mission, you get the knowledge of the stars to everybody, which increases additional damage dealt by 100%. Now keep this in mind, this is a unique effect. This is not gonna be dispel. This is not a temporary 2-turn thing. This is a for the rest of the match. As long as those characters exist, that additional damage will be there. And I just find that absolutely crazy because there's so many units you compare her with. I thought back when they buffed Maid Chloe and Fallen Cecilia that they're like, oh, we're trying to curb the extra damage shenanigans. No, this is just leaning straight into it, and I am very scared for for how much damage we're about to see getting unleashed onto everything. Now, keep in mind here, when it says allies attack 10 times or allies are attacked 10 times, it counts the number of units you hit or get hit. So if you do an AoE into your opponent, it counts as 4 hits. Right? Or if someone does an AoE into you, it counts as 4 stacks for the defense mission here. So just to keep that in mind, it actually ends up stacking quite quickly. So yeah, once you get that, you see she takes the extra turn, she grants knowledge of the stars to everyone here. She cleanses herself only, not her teammates. But then yeah, and then you can start doing your skills, right? So Speaking of the rest of her skills, skill 3 is called Light Piercing the End, where she attacks all enemies with a drone, dispelling all buffs before increasing skill cooldowns by 1 turn. Deals 3,000 additional damage regardless of whether the attack hits. We're seeing this a lot. With evasion just kind of running around, they're using fixed damage as a way to curb it, right? They're like, oh, Setsuka, yeah, we have a full-on warfare rule now to counter her, but we're also going to make sure that you just can't survive. You're just going to get absolutely nuked here. So the great thing about this is that you're normally going to get this after you take the extra turn, so after you get your star blessings, right? And you'll be doubling the damage that you do. So this doesn't really do anything besides fully dispel all buffs on your opponent's side and increase skill cooldowns by a turn. I say it's not much, but there's no like physical debuffs there, right? This is huge though. This is like power creeping like Knockwall and like Lua, right? For example. But yeah, this is insane. You can also use 20 souls to ignore effect resistance. So she can just come in here and, you know, stop your opponent's units from cleansing, from healing, reviving, doing their skill 3s, what have you. And she doubles this damage dealt, by the way. So 6,000 damage, regardless of whether the attack hits, and it's an AoE. So this is crazy stuff. Yeah. Now, I guess the one thing Lua has an advantage over this is that you do have to hit. You do have to land your hit to increase the skill cooldown. So I guess into evasion teams is that trade-off, right? You get the extra damage, but you don't get the increased skill cooldowns there. But yeah, you see here, she sends in the drones and she attacks, but we do see when she attacks, I'm going to go back and show you guys here. You can see the 1 turn increase, right? On the whatever units in the front, but the units that dodged here, they did not get the increase, right? The Ludwig also got turn increased. But anyway, her skill 1 is called Pulse Deployment, where she attacks all enemies with light with a, I believe it's a 65% chance with the skill enhancements to dispel 1 buff. So more stripping of buffs from the opponent, which is really solid, very consistent. And she deals 1,000 additional damage regardless of whether the attack hits. Again, keep that in mind, you're doubling this, so it's going to be 2,000 damage. So, again, not like minuscule. This is actually pretty significant. If you're playing any squishy units on your team, Spirit Iceline, Tori, stuff like that, they're just going to vaporize. They're not even going to get a chance to do anything here. And damage sharing units like Estelle, they're going to take so much burst damage from all this fixed damage that's going to be coming out that they're probably just going to go down super, super quickly, right? But I do really like the animation of that, like a giant light screen that's being thrown out. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about her artifact because this actually does tie like everything together. It's called Light and Darkness, and this artifact says after using an attack that targets all enemies, deals 1,000 to 2,000 additional damage and has a 50 to 100% chance to decrease combat readiness of the target by 15%. This is crazy because at plus 15, you're going to get 75% chance to decrease the combat readiness, right? And 1,500 additional damage. Already really good if you just want the additional damage. For the pushback, it's actually super nice because this is another artifact that you can now use on AoE rangers that can help push up things like MLTU, for example, which is kind of cool. But the one thing I want to point out with this is that this 2,000 additional damage, let's say you're plus 30, right? 2,000 additional damage. If you go back to the skill 1, let's head back to the skill 1 here and take a look at it. The skill 1 says that you deal 1,000 additional damage. So together with the artifact, you're dealing 3,000 fixed damage. Double it, that's 6,000 damage that you're going to be dealing because of her star blessing, right? Not only that, that's 6,000 damage for just skill 1 to every unit on your opponent's team. We also see that her skill 3 deals 3,000 additional damage. Add 2,000 onto that, right? That's going to be 5,000 damage, okay? Double that. That's 10,000. That's a 10,000 damage AoE attack that Politis is gonna be just farting out onto the opponent, and they're gonna get a whiff of that and they're gone, right? So that's incredible. I haven't even talked about Pursuit Set, by the way, where you're gonna get 20% additional damage, additional fixed damage on top of that. So 10k damage? No, no, no. How about 12k damage, right? 12,000 damage to every unit here. This is almost like ML Ludwig levels of just nuking your opponent, but with you don't even need that much setup for it, right? I feel like it's less setup than ML Ludwig would need. And then your skill 1. So it's 3,000, right? 20% of that is 600, so it's 3,600 damage. Just, again, AoE onto every unit on your opponent's side. Absolutely crazy stuff. You can maybe even build her on a counter set, so if they're trying to take her out, then you'll deal even more damage, right? Because none of this stuff says it has to be done on your turn. It just, you attack all enemies. And, oh man, guys, this is, it's honestly kind of wild how much damage she can dump out here. So, yeah, her animations also look absolutely amazing. She looks adorable in there too. So I can't wait to use her, but I'm also super scared to fight her because fixed damage has been my enemy for the past season. And so we will be able to summon for her in a drop rate up banner on September 3rd. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you save up some bookmarks. And let's go ahead and talk about some, well, other things that we can be potentially running on her. So let's go ahead and briefly talk about some other artifacts you can potentially be running on Politis here. I think her artifact that's been presented is the Light and Darkness, right? The best in slot for her because it synergizes so well with her kit and makes her an incredibly dangerous unit to deal with. But I can see instances where you might be like, oh, well, I want her for a bit more utility, in which case the Aube Orb is honestly never a bad option in nowadays because it does just straight up give you 10 souls at the start of the match, which is great, especially if you just need to disguise souls into your draft that aren't just outright mages. A lot of people, when they see you draft a bunch of mages, will immediately throw Bellion or someone in there to stop you from soul burning, but sneaking in Aube Orb where people don't expect it is a way that can allow you to catch your opponents off guard. So just a quick shout out to that artifact there. And the last shout out here is going to be to, of course, Guiding Light, because Guiding Light allows you to start the battle with stealth for a turn, which means your opponent cannot hit you. So if you are playing her not as an opener, not that she really has the full speeds to be an opener, but even then, people might try to contest you and stuff. Having Guiding Light means you're going to be protected from things like Rinnock, single target damage dealer, right? Zeo, for example, from pushing you back and silencing you. You're going to be protected from your opponent going like RNL. You might still need to cleanse for her fear on the AoE attack, but hey, Guiding Light will still prevent you from outright dying on your first turn. So in a way, it's kind of a trade-off there. It's kind of like Aube Ludwig where you want to run the Aube Orb, but Guiding Light is still run on so many builds because it just protects them so well. Now let's quickly take a look at the equipment sets that we would consider running on your Pioneer Politis here, right? So obviously the main things that come to mind are going to be Speed Set, perhaps even Weakening Set, because Weakening Set does allow you to increase the chance of you kind of stripping your opponent's buffs and stuff. It just increases your chance of applying these effects by 15%, right? So her skill 1, I believe, has a 65% chance to dispel. With this, it'll be an 80% chance to dispel, which is pretty good on an AoE attack. But this does require you to maybe build a little bit of effectiveness too, so do keep that in mind. I think the best 2-set piece that's going to be used on her here is going to be Pursuit Set. Like, I don't see a world in which you don't run Pursuit Set because she has so much fixed damage built into every aspect of her kit, including the artifact there. So this is going to be kind of nice. I do want to kind of experiment with like a counter build maybe, because she does take that extra turn, right? When you're hit enough times, for example. This might only apply to like slower turn 2 teams and stuff, but if you're hit enough times, you'll take that extra turn. You don't even need to have speed to get your combat readiness to go, and then you can kind of still nuke your opponent, and if they try to finish off Politis after that, I mean, you're gonna keep attacking, right, with AoE attacks and deal that fixed damage. So I think this is kind of has some scary potential. So taking a look at Sea Phantom Politis here, we can see that we're running a Speed Pursuit build. I'm running Aube Orb here as a placeholder for just some artifact stats, and we're running her decently bulky. Here are the stats on the gear. Everything's basically over 20 speed besides the necklace, but because of her base speed, it's not really too reasonable to expect her to be 300 plus in all circumstances, and I don't really think she needs it. You can open up with other units, for example, Zeo into into, let's say, Shepherd of the Dark DN, right? That'll push back your opponents far enough that you'll easily be able to take a turn with your Pioneer Politis there, while also giving you 5 stacks. Zeo with the 1 attack, right? AoE from the, let's say, Shepherd of the Dark DN, or you can even have RNL open for you. Skill 2 into an extra attack into a skill 3, that's 6 hits. So if you're playing an offensive Politis build, having a high speed could help because her AoE on her attacks also contribute to the stacks here for your team. So as long as you get 10 stacks, she will take an extra turn, and then you can come in with the full blessings of your stars and nuke your opponent with a skill 3, right? All that fixed damage going to be coming out and just obliterating them off the face of the planet. But we still have more builds to share, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. Now let's go ahead and take a look at a weakening set build with Pursuit set, obviously, and what a weakening set brings to the table is it increases your chance to strip your opponent's buffs by 15% on your skill 1, right? Bringing that up to, I believe I said it was, what, 80%? So not too shabby overall, and I would say that this also makes it so you don't necessarily have to always soul burn on her skill 3 to reliably kind of reset your opponent and everything like that. So also kind of good there. The Pursuit set is going to add to the extra damage, so you definitely want to still keep that on there. My gear isn't the best for weakening set. I'm still trying to farm a ton of it, but we do see that the build is running an effectiveness ring, right? For the fact that you're trying to prioritize these sort of landing the strips on your opponent. So that's the reason why we have that there. You could go for more bulk with like an HP ring, but if you're gonna go in on weakening set, I'd say just invest into the effectiveness and have that going, right? This is without any imprints, by the way, so if you have a self-imprint, I believe the effectiveness would actually be pretty nice on her. And allow her to be a bit more consistent with landing those debuffs, right? So yeah, that's going to be like the middle of the road kind of weakening set. Now let's kind of take a look at the counter set that she could be on. Now, I just want to preface this counter build by saying, don't ask. I don't know how my counter build somehow looks almost exactly like, but better than my weakening build here. But here we go. This is the same Sea Phantom Politis, the same Aube Orb on a counter pursuit set here. And we are rocking an HP ring instead of an effectiveness one, because don't really care too much about the effectiveness when you're just trying to bombard your opponent with fixed damage. I think this is probably like the way to go, right? For the Sea Phantom Politis, at least for me, if I'm gonna be, or not Sea Phantom Politis, for the Pioneer Politis, if I'm gonna be playing like a turn 2 sort of slower style. If you're taking a bunch of hits from your opponent, especially AoEs, you're likely gonna be getting hit on your Politis, and if she does get to get the Blessing of the Stars, then you're gonna be counter-attacking for a ton of damage. What was it? 3,600 damage, right? Every unit on your opponent's side is gonna take 3,600 damage if she counters with that AoE, with a maxed out artifact. I think it's gonna be kind of crazy. So this is, yeah, this is probably the build I'm gonna go for. I might tweak it a little bit, obviously, because there's a bit of like dead stats in terms of resistance there on the weapon, but otherwise, not too bad overall. And I'd say I'm kind of impressed with this. Okay guys, that's enough yapping for us here in terms of theoreticals. Let's go ahead and put all that knowledge into practice now with the combat demo. And as we can see, we have 2 stacks on our Politis right here because the RNL went with the extra attack. And now she's coming in with a skill 3. So with this skill 3, if we pause here, we can see offensive mission, boom, jumps up to 6. So AoE attacks are very, very easy for you to stack up for the Politis. Just keep in mind her position does matter in what mission she ends up getting, so put her in the front line for offensive, aggressive teams like this. And what we see here is the opponent is gonna be kind of feared from the RNL, but that's okay, right? It doesn't even matter what's going on here in terms of debuffs, because what you're gonna be witnessing is Politis kind of just dumpstering everything, right? Look, 6 stacks. She is gonna go for the AoE here, skill 3. Boom, and look at that, 10 stacks of offense mission. Light and Darkness is going to be triggering, and we're going to see that fixed damage come after this proc. So we see her going for the proc here. See, look at that, Knowledge of the Stars, and boom, Look at all the damage that's being done here. Now, I know it's not finishing anybody off because Estelle is taking up most of it. 40% damage share is incredibly powerful, and now she takes an extra turn. So I guess it's important to keep in mind that, yeah, you could just go for the skill 3 immediately, and she will be able to proc, because she procs her passive before the additional damage gets done, right? So that's going to be really nice to do. This Politis also quite tanky, 20k HP. We see a skill 1 coming out. That skill 1, guys, just look at this. Look at this skill 1 damage on the Estelle. I know everyone took 4k, but Estelle's soaking this up, right? That's insane amounts of damage that's being dealt here. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, when you factor in the fact that you have units like Bellion that can run things like 3F, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? All these debuffs to control you, and then you don't even need a real DPS unit. You're just chipping away at your opponent with all of this. Rupture from the Light Tenebria also allowing you to deal so much fixed damage here. Is just crazy. Is absolutely crazy, right? All these units, besides RNL, are not even doing damage. They're just there as kind of moral support, just kind of just debuffing, right? Preventing the Notos from taking a turn, essentially. And then you just do fixed damage, right? Insane stuff. Okay, we're gonna see another demo. Now, this is more up my alley because it's a defensive match, and we can see RNL on the other side too. This is gonna be 6 stacks on us immediately because this extra attack comes in for 2, skill 3 comes in for 6, and we do have the damage mitigation from this little Queen Charlotte. It's a defensive team after all, and you can see 6 stacks on the Politis. Yes, we're gonna get these debuffs on us. Yes, it's gonna suck, but Politis can cleanse herself, right? As long as we get enough offensive hits in, or sorry, defensive hits in. So we're gonna be chipping away at our opponent here. The Aube is gonna be taking a turn. He also has an AoE, which is gonna give us our full 10 stacks here. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of trying to navigate your opponent type of situation in RTA, where you don't really want your opponent to get the Politis proc, but at the same time, you're gonna try and deal some damage, right? In RTA, maybe the Aube there just does a skill 1 instead of a skill 3. Anyway, Politis goes for the proc. Boom, full cleanses herself, right? Has the abundance buff, by the way, from the Lady of the Scales, so keep that in mind. That is going to be incredibly strong in terms of damage that's dealt here. And boom. So, 15k damage. It's almost 16k damage for both of these units, right? RNL taking like 7k because she had a giant chunky barrier as well. RB didn't even, like, he's just evaporated. He's gone. Didn't even need to take damage. He's just dead. He does come back here, tries to nuke the team. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I feel like Politis is going to be such a scary, scary unit. By the way, Lady of the Scales with the Abundance buff here, look how much damage is dealt. Abundance does 2,000 normally, right? But Lady of the Scales has that doubled now. Boom! Just 5k damage. I find that insane. Insane. Because again, you're fighting evasion units, right? Arbiter Vildred, you're fighting RNL. And Little Queen Charlotte, her splash damage is also going to be affected here. So we see the splash damage, boom. And look at that. Almost 10k onto the RNL, 8k on the Politis, 6k onto the Ludwig there. It all scales with defense as well, the amount of fixed damage, at least from the Charlotte. So that is, yeah, I absolutely speechless at the damage she's going to be bringing. So guys, it's at this point that we take a step back and look at what units will synergize really well and what units can be used to counter the Pioneer Politis, right? Anything with fixed damage, by the way, is going to be absolutely amazing. So even before going to units, you can take a look at artifacts and stuff, like Uberius' Tooth, for example, dealing the additional damage proportional to your caster's attack. You also have Hecades' artifact, the Tome of Life's End, that also does additional damage. You have Knight artifacts, such as 3F, for example, that does additional damage proportional to HP. Even Rocket Punch Gauntlet, or MOAS, for the additional damage that scales with defense. There's so many things out there that allow you to deal additional damage on units that I think will work quite well with Pioneer Politis on your team. And so obviously it goes without saying you can be running the absolute degenerate Aube Ludwig. I feel like it's overkill to need to run Ludwig with the 100% extra damage dealt, but it's not hard. It's not hard to get it, because Ludwig, when he attacks with a skill 1 and he goes for the extra attack that's an AoE, that's 5 stacks already on your Pioneer Politis. And usually Ludwig is a bridge unit, so you're going to open up with something like RNL or Zeo or Zeo into Shepherd the Dark Dien into Aube Ludwig or something like that. That's going to allow you to easily proc the Pioneer Politis and allow the Ludwig to just nuke everything into oblivion, to the point where even if you're talking about counterpicks, right? Talking about counterpicks like Maid Chloe with her passive that halves the amount of fixed damage that you take, or even Fallen Cecilia with the same passive here, 50% additional damage reduction to all allies. Even that's going to be absolutely moot. It's not going to matter at all, because you're just going to take all that damage anyway, right? It just kind of 50% of doubling your opponent is still taking the full brunt of their attack, and it's kind of wild. But yeah, there's a lot of units that already have additional damage like in their kit, or units that normally run these artifacts, like Hakadia is going to be pretty nice. I feel like this is just them saying, hey, you Freerin enjoyers out there, your time is limited. Rinnock? Hey guys, how about Rinnock skill 3, right? 7,000 additional damage to all allies. That is wild stuff, especially when you couple this with the Pursuit set. So she's already dealing 8,400 damage, right, with the Pursuit set. You double that, and that's going to be over 16, almost 17k damage onto your opponent. It is absolutely wild what she brings to the table. Even stuff with Young Senya, I'd say, is wild, because Young Senya has the ability to deal additional damage, right? Attacks all enemies and deals additional damage equivalent to 15% of max health of the caster and the foremost ally except for the caster. Yeah, there's so many things. Little Queen Charlotte has splash damage. We've already seen that, right, with the skill 3. You have Amiki, for example, that can be used here with the Uberius' Tooth, right, dealing just additional damage to everyone, especially with the skill 3 as well, right, dealing additional damage to all enemies. I should actually be switching mine to a Pursuit set. That would be insane. But you guys get the drift. Run her with units that can do additional damage, but not necessarily needed. Again, like I mentioned, you can just use her as the only fixed damage unit, and you can just be running her with a bunch of openers. You saw the RNL synergizing really well with her, because she has a skill 2 into an extra attack into a skill 3. That's 6 targets that are being hit. You can also run combos that allow you to bridge into other units. I mentioned Zeo already, right? But Zeo into Shepherd the Dark Dien is 5 targets hit. Likewise, if you're just running a single Harsetti, you don't gain combat readiness, by the way, on the Politis. You can synergize her with Harsetti, because while Harsetti stops units from gaining combat readiness when it's not their turn, nothing stops extra turns, which is why Young Senya is able to proc. So if you're using Harsetti, and let's say Harsetti dual attacks, skill 1, dual attacks with Afternoon Soak Flan, that's 2 hits right there. Harsetti comes in with an AoE, that's 6 hits right there, right? You can even couple it with Summer Break Charlotte, although less common. Summer Break Charlotte has the ability to dual attack with her enhanced dual attack, and it's going to be an AoE attack, right? The enhanced dual attack's an AoE attack, so you can Harsetti skill 1, AoE with the Summer Break Charlotte, that's 5 hits, and then you have Harsetti's extra attack that comes in, that's 9 total hits. You only need 1 more hit from any source, and Politis will be able to proc, at least the offensive abilities, right? So yeah, I think she has a ton of potential. I think she's very, very scary, even though she is not a Moonlight character or anything like that. Keep in mind, Smalgate has been making a lot of RGB units that are very competitive in the current state of the game. So don't underestimate her. She is going to be wild. Anyway, with that being said though, guys, let me know what you think is going to be degenerate combo with the Pioneer Politis in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.